Anyway, it was bound to happen anyway. I expected this. I did. I expected this was going to happen eventually. I knew it. It was bound. It was bound to happen. Cleveland Indians are removing the Chief Wahoo logo following numerous discussions by the Major League Baseball Commissioner Bob Manfred. The Indians will no longer wear the big tooth, smiling, red-faced uh, um, caricature during the games. The iconic logo, which has been with that team since 1947. 1947. They've been having that on that team since 1947. Is now deemed racist and offensive. Oh, we can't have that. No. This offends me. Okay? It's offensive. Oh, we can't do that. Manfred said that the team conveyed to him that some fans have a long-standing attachment to this logo, but the Indians agreed that it's no longer appropriate for infield use. The Indians will wear the Wahoo logo this season and will continue to sell merchandise featuring it, but under growing pressure from the team, undergoing some team pressure, the team is now transcending it away. The Chief Yahoo will, in recent years, the Indians produced a Block C insignia in their caps and removed the Indian signed Wahoo logo. So they're going to have a C. So this is going to get confusing with the Cincinnati Reds. It's going to get confusing because the Cincinnati Reds have a C and the Cubs have a C. Okay, this is going to get confusing. They're going to have a red C. Maybe not. I don't know. I think it's going to be confusing though, because when you think about it, they're going to have this red C, and it's going to look like the Cleveland. It's going to look like the Cincinnati Reds, and it's going to look like the Chicago Cubs. Or the Chicago Cubs have blue uniforms, and they usually have a blue C or the lion cub on their uniforms. So maybe not, but still, I mean, really, that's too bad. That's the end of an era. Because they've always had the team logos on there. They've always had it. There's always they've always had it on their logo. So, we'll talk about that coming up. Meanwhile, let's take a look at some of the games going on. Some of the action that's going to be happening in the NBA tonight. Let's take some of the 6 o'clock and 6:30 games. Oklahoma City playing Washington. We have Brooklyn playing New York. Minnesota's at Toronto. Sacramento at New Orleans. Cleveland Cavaliers are going to play the Detroit Pistons. Orlando Magic's up against the Houston Rockets. Denver Nuggets are going to play San Antonio Spurs. The Golden State Warriors are up to play the Utah Jazz. Those previous games, the two I mentioned, Cleveland against Detroit and the Orlando against Houston, are all 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock also Sacramento against New Orleans. 7:30 will be Denver against San Antonio. 8 o'clock Golden State against Utah. And Portland Blazers will play against the Los Angeles Clippers at 9:30. Those are some of the action and some of the standings right now in the NBA Eastern. Boston's on top with 36 and 15. Toronto at number 2 with 33 and 15. Philadelphia at number 3, 24 and 23. New York is at number 4 with 22 and 28. Brooklyn is down in the basement at 18 and 32. In the Central, Cleveland is on top, 29 and 19. Milwaukee, number 2, 27 and 22. Indiana is at number 3 with 28 and 23. Detroit is at 4 with 22 and 26. And the Chicago Bulls are in the basement. What happened to those guys? Bulls used to be good at one time. They're 18 and 32. What is going on with these guys? Southeast, let's take a look at that. Miami's at the top. Number 1, 29 and 21. Washington, 27 and 22. Charlotte is 20 and 29 at number 4. Number 5 is Atlanta, 15 and 36, and in the basement is Orlando with 14 and 34. So that's your standings in the NBA on the Gary Russen program. Take a look at some of the other games going on. Let's see what else is going on. Let's take a look at the NHL. Take a real quick look at the NHL right now and see what's going on there. And take a look at some of the scores. First of all, coming up in the NHL tonight live on Yahoo is going to be Anaheim against Boston. Watch that game, huh? Going on also, New Jersey against Buffalo. Those are both 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock also is Ottawa against Carolina. Florida against New York. San Jose will play Pittsburgh. And Minnesota playing Columbus. And at 7, Montreal against St. Louis. Chicago Blackhawks are going to play Nashville Predators. Tampa Bay Lightning is at 7 o'clock up against Winnipeg. Los Angeles Kings playing the Stars at 7:30. Vegas, they got a team, the Golden Knights. They're going to play up against Calgary. The Flames, 8 o'clock start. And 9 o'clock, Colorado playing Vancouver. And that is Sports Page on GJRB Online. Of course, Sports Page always, usually about the second hour, about 40, I try to make it about 45 minutes past the second hour. Always on GJRB Online here on Spreaker. 20 minutes after 5 Central Time. And we're getting to the end of the nitty-gritty here to put an end to this program for today because I am not getting anywhere with any more calls. And once again, I want to thank Ben Osman Osen for joining us today. It was fun. It really was. I thought maybe we'd spark something with this. I thought for sure maybe I'd get some calls and maybe somebody would be listening to this. And maybe I need to do. I'm going to be working on this, trying to get early postings. I've got ideas on how to do this. It's a matter of typing up some info while I'm on the air and copy pasting it while I'm on the air. So I got to do that a little bit and get it out there, because I think if I get my show out there among the listening audience, we'll get more replies, we'll get more bites, and maybe even more calls. So we're going to look at that in the future to see what we can come up with. As I'm sure we can find some listeners who might tune into the program. We'll see what happens there. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Because you never know. I mean, I've had weirder things happen. It broke loose that one day we were on the air. And ever since then, I don't know. I just wasn't getting the listenership I was getting the past hour. Now, I had 2 listeners in the last segment, which is start. I'm getting 2, which is good. But I need to find a way to keep them hanging in there. So, work is in order here. Let's see what we get. Once again, a big happy birthday to my friend Doug Beck. And my friend, and of course my stepdaughter Tracy for tomorrow. And see what else before we close out today. kind of tired already, and my voice is starting to get rattly. And of course, last night didn't help any with that stupid acid going in my throat, which usually messes up before I go on the air. Because when I start broadcasting and my voice, starts getting rattly, it starts sounding kind of bad. So usually that tells me that maybe it's just time to quit. Well, the quitting's good. And bump on out of here, because usually I was getting ready to make supper. So I'm going to start getting ready to do that. And so that'll be time to close out. Staying longer than I had to, or staying on longer than I needed to, past my usually the time I go off. But in this case, I'm only on here on Spreaker, not on my FM dial, my 9-foot FM frequency. So figured, well, no restraints. I could stay on longer if I could to get more responses from listening audience. So let's see what we can come up with on the next show, and see what we can pull off, and get some listeners on here. You know what I mean? One weather on the 5. Remember that? It was fun today. It really was. I really enjoyed talking to Ben, and it really made the show more interesting, didn't it? Having a little banter. I thought I was bringing in listeners with that. I don't know how much, because at the very, very beginning of the beginning of the conversation, he was kind of fading in and out on me. I couldn't hear him sometimes. I had to remind him to maybe get close to his mic, because he was starting to fade out on me. But it was fun. I had a great time doing that. And we'll do that again real soon. I'm going to set up another time with him here in the future. And maybe perhaps we can get some more conversation rolling. That's what we need to do. We want to get this show where we get more people. But we'll be back on the air with some music on Thursday. I want to do a show on Thursday, play some music, and talk at you some more. And the Gary J in the afternoon, as mostly music. Our GJRB regular format, which I don't do that much. It's our variety format. It's our regular, what is known in radio is MOR, middle of the road, which I like to keep that kind of format. And so I decided to bring that middle of the road format back in a show called Gary J in the Afternoon, a variety of new emerging artists, classic favorites, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, rock, top 40, rock and roll, some country memories, country songs. I play them all. So join me Thursday, tentatively at 2 o'clock Central, for Gary J in the Afternoon. We'll be on at noon with some music, and then we're going to be live with that show, Gary J in the Afternoon. So I hope you'll tune in for that. Otherwise, that's going to do it. Once again, I want to thank Ben Osman-Osan for joining us. Thank you for listening. That's going to do it for the Gary Russen Program Extra for today. Going to kind of rest a little bit. I need it. Rest the throat, you know what I mean? We'll catch you again real soon for another edition of the Gary Russen Program. Until then, have yourself a good night. Relax. Have the best night ever. Hey, if you get a chance to catch that moon, that lunar eclipse, we'll talk about that on Thursday. Get a chance to check that out. Other than that, have a good night, everyone.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzz driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says, "I'm a catch," more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
America's Street Music is back on GJRB Bluegrass with the Grass Golds, Bill Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys, and so much more. So it's time to bring it back, and on more often. It's Bluegrass Jubilee Freestyle, with all the great songs you heard before, and some new up-and-coming stars with some emerging bluegrass. Also, some all-time gospel favorites too.
At a brand new time, every third Saturday at 12 noon Central on GJRB. Imagine one day tuning around on your internet radio only to find a station playing old radio programs complete with commercials and thinking, what am I tuning into? The past? You might be, or it's just GJRB Online and Radioland. A day of nothing but classic radio shows back to back with classic commercials in between. Like the days of radio. Almost like your computer is picking up signals through time. Closer than you'll ever get to time travel. Radioland.
This is your captain speaking. We've encountered some difficulties with our landing gear and will have to perform an emergency landing. Please assume the crash position.
The crash position? I wasn't watching! Where's the stewardess? Will somebody tell me the crash position?
Hey, sit down!
Oh, Lord, I don't want to die. I'll give you 50% of my pay. I'll go to church every Sunday, except maybe Super Bowl Sunday.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, the emergency vehicles are on the runway and prepared for any catastrophe.
Okay, Super Bowl Sunday!
This is your captain speaking. We have successfully lowered the nose gear.
That's right, God. 20% of my pay. I'll go to church every Sunday. We'll negotiate football season. Just get me home.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have successfully lowered all landing gear. Sorry for the inconvenience.
What do you need all that money for, God? I only get 2 days off a week.
Are you God's servant every day, or only when you need Him? Another message from Lifeline Productions, the comic strip of radio, at lifelinepro.com.
End times are upon us, and we need to know what's happening. Knowing the truth is key to survival. There are lots of news events going on in the world that have certain significance to end time happenings. Listen, as men and women gather to discuss the news and how it lines up with Bible prophecy on the last 7 days. Uploaded as a podcast Wednesdays and run live every third Friday at 12 o'clock noon Central on GJRB.
This is GJR Broadcasting.